Can I just leave this here?
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, you broke everything. Kidding. Your microphone is on your jacket.
That's, it's like you're a pro already at this.
Well, I wear a microphone for work sometimes. So.
Do you really?
Yeah, when I'm teaching, right?
Teaching.
Yeah. So I got a microphone set. Look at those beautiful lights. $40 from Amazon.
Nice. That's what we like. Value propositions.
Exactly.
Where is my phone's up there.
Oh, you've got all your notes on it?
I did have my notes on it. All right, take 2.
All right, let's do this.
Let's chat. Hey everyone, welcome to Between Each Sip. Special location today. We're at the beautiful workshop of Mr. Ashton Tracy.
A small but mighty workshop, as I like to describe it.
Yeah, well, you get a lot of things done here, and there's always some cool stuff around when I come by. So
we aim to please.
Yeah, it's nice to be back, and it's always nice to see you. I see you've grown a little beard.
Yeah, I thought I'd go for a new look. So. We've been trying to do this for such a long time.
We have.
Great that it finally happened.
We have, yeah. I mean, I just think there's so much to talk about with in terms of watches, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a proper watchmaker. So
what'd you get me on for then? You should have found a proper watchmaker.
Come on.
Yeah.
Well, hey, before we start, we did pour ourselves a little bit of drink here. It is called Between Each Sip, right?
Right. Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about what we got in the glass here. What do you think? The Koila 12.
It's fantastic. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm usually a bourbon guy.
Yeah.
Which I know is one of the upcoming questions. I did see that.
There we go.
But this is actually fantastic. I was thinking most of my family are bourbon drinkers as well.
Okay.
But I'm going to be with them this weekend, and I was actually thinking about getting a bottle of this. Because it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got that sweetness to it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. It's the sweetness, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's an Islay whiskey, it's not overwhelmingly smoky.
No, not at all.
Quite balanced. You get the malty kind of the grainy note as well, not just the smoke and the sweetness. So it's a very well balanced whiskey. Highly recommend anybody out there looking for a good.
And if they want to sponsor the podcast, I'm sure that's fine.
If Mr. Koila would like to come and chat with us,
Sure, yeah. Send us some bottles, the drink of choice for the podcast.
There we go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, I have some questions prepared for you. So why don't we start with, you are a WOSTEP trained watchmaker.
That is correct.
Why don't we start with, how did you get into this?
Well, it's an interesting story. I wasn't destined to be a watchmaker.
Was it your calling?
No, not at all.
Out of the womb, you're like...
Absolutely not. Not at all. I had a friend who was a watchmaker, and we were living in the UK at the time. And basically, I finished school and was trying to decide what to do. Didn't really know what to do. And my friend said to me, he said, "Oh, well, have you thought about watchmaking?" Who's thought about watchmaking as a career? So obviously the answer was no, I've never thought about watchmaking. But so he said, well, come to my workshop and take a watch apart and see what you think. Or take a clock apart, actually.
But did you have any experience with watches before that? Like,
No, I didn't even know
watches at all.
I didn't even know there were watches that didn't have batteries.
Wow.
Like, I knew nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
I thought all watches had batteries.
Yeah.
So no background, no knowledge.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Straight into the deep end.
Straight into the deep end.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go to his workshop.
So I went to his workshop, and there was a small carriage clock. So we took the carriage clock apart, and I thought, this is kind of interesting. Like, he was explaining bits and pieces to me, and I thought, well, this seems kind of cool. So let's give it a go. So at the time, there was a WOSTEP partnership school in the UK.
Okay.
So it was called it is called the British School of Watchmaking, and they run the 2-year or the 3,000 hour WOSTEP program at that school. So that school had only one class at that point. It was the first year.
Wow.
So I was looking at getting accepted for the second year.
Oh, okay. So you got in right in the beginning of that partnership.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I was young too because WOSTEP at the time, and I think still, they had an age limit.
Oh.
I think you've got to be over 25.
Really?
To go. Yeah.
I wonder why that is.
They want people that are serious.
I see.
They don't want people that are going to do it and maybe just, fall by the wayside or something.
I see. So they do actually recruit people who are genuinely wanting to pursue it as a career.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if I tried to apply now, based on what I was like back then, I probably wouldn't get in.
I see. Okay.
Because I was just a newbie, right?
Yeah.
So I went in, I set the entrance exam. We just took what did we do? We did something with a watch. I can't remember.
Okay.
I think we maybe took like a bridge off and a few wheels out or something like that.
As a test or
as like just to see kind of mechanical aptitude.
Okay.
What do you like with your hands?
Cool.
Are you dropping everything?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I did that and I got accepted. And I was employed by the Swatch Group at the time.
Okay.
So they actually paid for me to go.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they paid for me to go, and there was a 2-year commitment to work for them afterward.
I see.
Yeah.
So you were working for Swatch at the time. Do you mind if I ask what you were doing at Swatch? Or?
No. So I wasn't working for Swatch.
Okay.
They said, yep. So we'll employ you to go through the school.
Okay.
We'll pay you to go to school, basically. They paid like a small amount of money to go to attend the school, and they paid the tuition.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, we want a 2-year commitment afterward.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like their way of recruiting a watchmaker.
Basically.
Like investing in a watchmaker.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Basically. So that was the deal, and I got accepted, and that was that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you do things, did you do anything mechanical beforehand? Did you like to work on stuff beforehand? Or?
Not really, no.
Wow. So you kind of just straight went into watch.
Just straight went into watch. I quite literally fell into it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then,
I mean, I played with a lot of Lego as a kid.
that counts.
I guess that counts. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I myself is also a Lego veteran. So
yeah.
I think if all businesses fail, I'll just
build Lego.
I'll build Lego or go to watchmaking.
Oh, okay, right. I just build Lego for a living. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then when you got into the school, did perspectives change for you in terms of how you looked at watches?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you're learning about them as you go, the miniaturization, the engineering aspect, the tolerances.
Right.
I loved it from that point on.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't like I hated doing it or anything like that. There were periods where I was like, what have I done here? What
do you know? Do you remember what those periods were? Like, what were the things that you didn't like doing, and what were the things that you really enjoyed?
Well, it's so much repetition. As in, we're working on a balance spring, for instance. We'd pin up and time a balance spring. We did that for 8 weeks straight. Wow. Every day, the same thing. Yeah. Just pinning up and timing a balance spring 8 weeks straight. Wow. So it can get pretty tedious after a while.
And now you could do it asleep with your...
Yeah, well, we got so good at it, we would have a race to see who could pin and time up the fastest balance spring. And get a passing mark. Yeah. So my friend Scott and I, we could do it in 30 minutes by the end and have it get a passing mark.
Yeah.
A passing mark at WOSTEP is 4 out of 6.
Okay.
It's a very weird scale that they have. So you had to get a minimum of 4 and the maximum was 6.
Okay.
So yeah, that was kind of what we did to relieve some of the boredom of just doing balance springs all day long.
So that's the 3,000-hour WOSTEP training.
Yes.
Did you have to make a watch at the end to graduate, or make a clock at the end?
No. So that's something that was they did at WOSTEP. Okay. The British School of Watchmaking was kind of optional at the time.
Okay.
So we all started some stuff, but never really finished.
Okay.
We all kind of played around with a few bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But we never really finished. I could actually show you.
I could splice in some photos. Post edit Daniel will.
Yeah. I'll show you. I made a watch case.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like fully handmade.
Yeah. So it was a solid block of brass.
Okay.
And I turned it down on the lathe.
Oh.
And like filed out the lugs. So the lugs weren't attached afterward.
Yeah.
They were actually like kind of milled out from the block.
Cool. Wow.
This drawer is a bit of a mess. It doesn't inspire much confidence, this drawer.
It's okay. We can find it out.
I believe it's in here somewhere, but maybe I can look for it afterwards.
Yeah, look for it.
I wanted to show you now. But yeah, anyway, so I made that watch case.
Cool.
And again, never finished it.
Okay.
But yeah.
So did you, well then my next question naturally will be like, have you ever thought about doing your own watch?
I've thought about it, yep.
Okay. And
you asked if I thought about it. I would never do it.
Really?
Never.
Is it just the R&D into it is too tedious and too much time consuming?
I have a good friend, Bradley Taylor.
Yes.
I was actually in his workshop a couple of weeks back. I was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And he's doing that right now.
Yeah.
He's in the process of creating his own watch.
He had a brand out of Toronto, right?
Yeah, he moved to Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's in the process of kind of doing his own movement and that kind of thing. You know, he's at the workshop till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
You know, and he's working on it full time during the day.
That is dedication.
Yeah, it's absolutely dedication. Hats off to him. But I don't have the drive or the want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's your life at that point.
It is.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so this kind of brings me up to my next point is, you know, looking at the watch industry now versus the industry, 20 years ago, right? There's so much, what's the word, like production, automation, and CNC and things like that are from China that are available to any brand now.
Yep.
There's a huge uptick in quote unquote micro brands and independent brands, right? So first of all, like, what are your thoughts? A little bit of Isla in your throat.
Excuse me, that went down the wrong way.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That kind of just hit the back of the throat.
Like, what are your thoughts on these emerging category of micro brands, first of all? And second of all, do you think what is the difference to you between a micro brand and an independent brand?
I'd say an independent brand is more established.
Okay.
You know, when we think about the independents, we think about brands like particularly Rolex, Chopard, they're kind of the independents.
I see.
Within the industry.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas micro brands are just that.
Yeah.
What sales figures are a few thousand a year, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
So that's kind of the differentiation I would make there.
Yeah. But what about like things like Journe and even Nomos, right?
Yeah.
They're very young brands, obviously at different levels, of course, right?
Yeah.
Journe and Nomos and stuff like that. But comparing them to things like RZE or like Atelier Wen, just want to hear your thoughts on it. Like, obviously, Nomos and Journe have their own like facilities to produce movements.
Yeah,
I think Nomos even makes their screws and
they're making pretty much everything.
Everything, right, in house. But other brands aren't doing that. Do you think the lack of ability, puts the brand a step down, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, why do everything yourself?
Okay, I see. You think there's definitely a lot of value coming from outsourcing things?
Yeah, well, no industry works that way.
Right.
I mean, this is not my regular cleaning machine, okay? To give you an example, my regular cleaning machine, this is an Elma, but it's an older style. My current one is a newer Elma, and I had a part break.
Okay.
So I needed to get it repaired, so I got the part sent to me. I mean, Elma don't make the motor. Elma don't make the circuit board.
Yeah.
They don't make the timer.
Yeah.
Why would they?
Right. In the same way, like, why would a watchmaker or a brand strive to do that?
I mean, I understand wanting to have production capabilities.
Yeah.
A brand like Nomos, for sure, they want to keep everything possibly in Germany.
Yeah.
But you got to realize the watch industry, they might make you think that they work like that,
right?
But they do not work like that. You know, one company generally, or a few companies make hands for watch brands.
Right.
You know, one company generally makes all the mainsprings for movements.
Yeah.
You know, Niverox basically make all balance springs. There's not really any value. I mean, Rolex up until
mid 2000s.
Yeah, didn't own Agler.
Yeah.
You know, like they purchased it, so they didn't technically have in-house movements.
Right.
They were only made for Rolex in that sense, but they didn't own the production capabilities. So, I mean, I see brands doing it now, and I understand why they want to do it. And everyone's obviously coming out with in-house movements, but again, Tudor, Breitling, they're made by Kinesi. They're not in-house. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of think, why? What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the value?
I think what you're saying is the whole strive for only like valuing brands based on if they have certain things that are in-house or not in-house. There shouldn't be too much emphasis put on that.
Absolutely, yeah. Do we do it in the car industry?
No.
Do you pick over your new BMW and say, was this made here? It doesn't happen.
Right.
It's only in the watch industry. Now, I will argue that the watch industry have made a rod for their own back. In that sense.
Yeah.
They've said...
I wonder who started that.
Yeah, I mean, they've said, look, we do this, look, we do that, but it's like, well, of course, everybody knows things are outsourced. Yeah, so that's kind of my take on that. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it's related.
Yeah.
When I'm fixing watches for people, you know, I'll be asked, is this original? Okay, is this original? Is this whatever? You know, it'd be something like a plexiglass. Okay, like a plexiglass worth a couple of dollars, right? Now, yeah, Omega have their own plexiglasses that have the little Omega dimple and symbol and that kind of thing. But you have to remember, back in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 50s, brands weren't making plexiglasses. So there's no such thing generally as, an original plexiglass for this. Right. Yeah, there are certain brands that would use plexiglasses, but, you know, at the end of the day, it would just use like a generic style plexiglass. So there's a lot of confusion about originality of parts.
I see.
You know, is this an original mainspring?
Like, in what sense do you mean by original, right?
Yeah, or is it real? It's real. It's a real screw. It really does the job of a screw. It screws in and holds something in place. Or a mainspring. Is it a genuine mainspring? Well, this brand doesn't make mainsprings.
Yeah.
We get mainsprings from the mainspring supplier.
Right.
It's like asking, are they genuine BMW tires?
Right. Well, they get it from Pirelli, so
BMW don't make tires.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of lack of understanding I find around that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, almost in a way, the watch industry is digging a hole and jumping into themselves, right? And confusing all their clients at the same time.
A little bit, for sure.
But do you see the value in having an all original vintage watch versus, you know, for example, if I don't know, a Rolex came in and it had, you know, the service dial or the service hands? Like, do you see why people would want a non-service style Rolex that's original?
Right now, yep. Okay. In the current climate, absolutely. Because that's what collectors want.
Right.
But that's not always what collectors wanted.
Okay. Back in the day, they just wanted something that worked. And
back in the day, they wanted, you know, the collectors, you know, you go back to the days of, you know, the early blogs, Purist Pro and all that stuff. People wanted reloomed watches. People wanted vintage watches to look refreshed.
That's crazy.
You know, so that was what the market was looking for back in the day.
Yeah. And things really have changed a lot.
Absolutely. Things have changed massively. And now the problem is, it's so hard to tell what's original. You know, cases can be laser welded, put through tumblers, made to look old, repolished, recut.
Wow.
So I think paying a huge premium, I mean, if you know it's original, fine. Like, if you find it from the original person.
Right. Like, you know the provenance.
You know, I've had this watch. You know, I fix tons of original watches, and I know that they've never been serviced or recut or this.
Yeah.
I've owned this since blah blah blah. If you know the provenance of the watch, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a bit dubious, I wouldn't be spending big money on it because maybe it's not.
Yeah.
You know, there's too many pitfalls. Look at the issues we've had with auction houses lately.
I was going to say, yeah, there's a lot of
you know,
sketchy stuff happening over there, you know.
Look at that, you know. So what's to be trusted, right? So yeah, I mean, yes, I understand wanting original for sure. Mm-hmm. Then you can push it further. Okay, well, what's original? What constitutes original? What if it doesn't have the original plexi? What if it doesn't have the original crown? What if it doesn't have the original pushes? You know, so you can.
Yeah, I feel like people nowadays would just consider that not original at all. You know, if it doesn't have the original crown or the original pushers or whatever, they would just be like, well, "This is borderline of Franken."
But how do you know?
Right. Well, if it doesn't have an original crown, like if a Speedmaster, right, doesn't have an Omega crown, then obviously it's not original, right?
No, I'm talking about later period, maybe even, or an original. So my point is, you pick up a 1957 Speedmaster, okay? Yeah. It went for service in 1965 and had the crown changed. Yeah. Is it original?
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know. Nobody knows. That's my point, right? So, it's original. Well, it could have had parts replaced. It might not be the crystal that it came out of the factory with. Right. Right. Maybe the crystal was replaced when it went for a service 5 years later.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were still using the same time period. Right. So is that watch still original?
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's really dependent on who you ask them, right?
Well, the answer is yes, it is, because nobody could ever know.
Yeah, I guess.
So I mean,
unless you have like the service receipt from that first service. I mean, even then, like. Anyways,
that's my point. It's very, very difficult to know.
It's a very particular case.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to know.
Yeah,
that's my point. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on a little bit about, I guess, what you do day to day. I know you're a watchmaker and you service and do cool stuff to restore vintage watches and fix modern ones as well. But what else do you do?
So yeah, as you mentioned, I fix a lot of Seikos, a lot of vintage Seiko. I'm kind of known for that.
Yeah.
So I get sent those from kind of all corners of the earth.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I am an instructor for the Horological Society of New York. So I'm kind of the Canadian-based instructor. So when they come to Toronto, we recently went to Vancouver. I'll also go to other places around the world or the US if I'm needed. So we'll do those watchmaking courses where we take collectors or people interested in taking a watch apart, and we go through a bit of theory. We completely dismantle a watch, and then we put it back together again, basically, and it ticks at the end. So I'm involved with that aspect, and I'm also involved with the FHH, so the Fondation de Haute Horologie. My French isn't very good, so
I was going to say that's pretty good.
Apologies. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Apologies to everybody there. So that's the FHH is based in Geneva, and basically they're involved. They're actually the people that started Watches and Wonders.
Okay.
The FHH. It's now split as of last year. Okay. Watches and Wonders became too big, so the FHH split it up into its own section.
Okay.
So its own entity, yeah, that's the word. So because it just became kind of too big to manage.
Yeah.
So they do that. They do the FHH Forum, which is where kind of CEOs and the big shots of all the companies get together and talk about the industry, and then heavily involved in training.
Okay.
So training professionals in the industry.
So they're kind of like overseeing organization that not governs, but like guides the industry almost?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. There's a few kind of organizations that do it. The main thing is training.
Okay.
So the FHH's website as well, it has like a glossary of watchmaking terms. It's one of the most complete in the world.
Okay.
So people can go and learn about complications and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, heavily involved in the FHH Academy, it's called. So that's training professionals. So what we do is the main course is called Watch Essentials. So it's a kind of day and a half in-person course, or we also teach it online as well.
Cool.
And we teach sales staff about watches.
Okay.
You know, all the ins and outs so that they can be better informed when selling. So, yeah.
Cool. So
I do a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah. So apart from working on watches, you're heavily involved with FHH in terms of education.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I know Watches and Wonders is coming up. So are you headed there?
I am. I'm headed to Geneva on the 8th of April.
Awesome.
Be there for about 11 days. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Yeah. Well, maybe we chat about that when you're back in another episode.
Yeah, sure. My first time going, so
cool.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned earlier you're known for doing a lot of Seikos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vintage Seiko specifically. So, but before all the vintage Seiko started, you also did, and even now, you still do a ton of vintage Rolex, vintage Omega, and Swiss watches as well.
Yep, for sure. Yep.
So, do you see, like, obviously from a design perspective, right? You look at vintage Grand Seiko, and then you look at, say, a vintage Rolex OP or Datejust. They're very different, right, from a design perspective.
Mm-hmm.
One is clearly not from the West, right? Just the way that the sharp angles and things like that. Do you get that from a watchmaking perspective as well? Like, you look at the way the movements are designed versus Rolex or Omega from the 50s and 60s?
Yeah, definitely. Not so much with Grand Seiko.
Okay.
I mean, yes and no, but a lot with kind of regular Seikos. Okay. You can really see that. How can I put it?
Without hurting people's feelings?
No, it won't hurt anyone's feelings. But you can see that, like, I guess you'd call it the Toyota approach. As in, everything's very interchangeable.
Okay.
Everything's, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Like the compatibility?
Compatibility, but everything's just kind of like, a Toyota has a purpose.
Right.
This is what it does.
Right.
That's Seiko.
Yeah.
This is what it does.
Interesting.
It works well. It runs forever.
Yeah.
They're the kind of similarities. It's the Japanese design, right?
Yeah,
it's the Japanese input into it, and you can definitely see that.
Wow. Okay.
And Seiko did some very, very clever things.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, so the 6139, the 6138, whatever it might be, the chronographs, they all have the same chronograph seconds hand. Okay? They all have the same hand, but there are hands that need to be different lengths. So what did Seiko do? Well, it's oversized, and the watchmaker just cuts it to size.
Oh, so depending on the case and
depending on the dial, yeah.
Wow.
Watchmaker just takes like a pair of nail clippers, whatever it might be, as side cutters, and clips it, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, so they all look like lollipop hands.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe we could put a picture.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll splash a photo. Yeah,
put a picture in. So they've lollipop hands. So they're different colors.
Wow.
But they just had to make one hand.
Yeah.
And then you just cut it.
Wow. Okay.
Is it an elegant solution? No, because you're cutting the hand and you can actually see at the end. Maybe there might be a little bit of paint or whatever. So it's not the most elegant solution, but it's a solution that works, and it's a solution that works very well.
I see.
So you can
it's again like the efficiency of things.
The efficiency, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they just run and run and run.
Yeah.
So Swiss watches you'll see are more refined.
Yeah. Like refined in terms of finishing?
Refined in terms of finishing. Seikos are a little sloppier with tolerances and things like that. Obviously, timekeeping is not the same. With the Grand Seikos and some of the King Seiko chronometers, yeah, they're very good timekeepers. But, still, vintage Seikos don't really leave here anything less than kind of 10 to 15 seconds a day
Oh wow.
You know, so they're still very good.
That's very good.
Yeah, for a watch, you know, that non-chronometer rated movement from the 70s.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, I mean, you know me, like I've always been fascinated by vintage Seikos from the design perspective, but also from, you know, just the movement engineering perspective, right?
Yep.
I love the way they name the movements. You know, like it'll be a 56 caliber, but it'll be like a 2.5 or like a 4.5 or like, you know, depending on the grade, the number will be higher, I guess. Yeah, so it's always very easy to spot, what level in the collection at the time this watch was meant for. Yep. So, yeah. And again, a lot of the parts are interchangeable. So the 61 series, so the 6139 is a chronograph. The 6119 is an automatic. 6309, 6105, whatever. Yeah. So many of the parts are interchangeable. Really? Yeah, like they pretty much use all the same mainspring. Just out of curiosity, like I've been looking this year. One of my goals is to add a 61 GS to my collection, like a 6145 and 46-8000. Does that mean that there's also parts that interchange with that one? Not with the GS, no. Well, maybe some basic components, you know, like mainsprings and things. It has a stronger mainspring, but I think the barrels actually might be compatible. You just have to flip them over. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah. So much is interchangeable. It's it's pretty incredible. Wow. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. When the time comes, I'm sure I will. I'm sure I'll see you again. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Okay. So how about a round of, if you don't mind, just unlocking this for me. My the production quality of this podcast is so high that I forgot to print out my notes. It's I think it's just to the left. All right. What a round of lightning questions for you. Hit me. Date or no date? Date or no date? Date. Okay. Hand wind and automatic? I like a hand wind. Hand wind? I really do. I like a hand wound watch. Okay. Yeah, I really do. Sports watch or dress watch? Sports watch. Oh. Rolex or Tudor? You could only say one thing. No elaborating. Rolex or Tudor? It's supposed to be lightning as well. You're allowed to take a sip and think about it. I mean, I almost feel like when I wrote this question, I was like, well, there's eras. So I'm about to say, this is my answer. Okay, go on. Vintage, Rolex, modern, Tudor. Oh, okay. That's my answer. Seamaster or Speedmaster? Speedy. Oh. That's easy. Beer or whiskey? It's got to be beer. Really? Yeah. I didn't see that one coming. Yeah, I'm more of a beer guy. Okay. I like my IPAs. Well, next time we'll have to do beers. Yeah, no, I like my IPA. I mean, I like whiskey, but I like my IPAs. Yeah, yeah. Okay, bracelet or strap? Bracelet. Okay. Scotch or bourbon? I think we... Bourbon, yeah, bourbon. This one. Although... this one's... I could be tempted. Okay, last one. Modern or vintage? Vintage. Vintage. Yeah, that one's easy. I like it. Okay, so then, if that's the case, right, so we just got a feel of what you, as perhaps a collector, likes in terms of watches. So maybe let's dive into that a little bit. What do you... Well, I noticed you're not wearing a watch right now. I honestly never wear a watch these days. I only ever really wear a watch if I leave the house, and I work from home. It's workshops in my basement. Yeah. So I don't really wear a watch when I'm working. I find it quite annoying. Yeah, fair enough. Because I'm sitting... I don't know if the camera can see me over here, but I'm kind of sitting like this. Yeah. So it gets a little irritating. I see. Yeah. I have a 1680 Submariner. Yeah. Rolex Submariner from 1978. That I wear. I've owned various watches over the years. Yeah. They've all been sold. Yeah. So I've owned... So the 1680 is sort of your... That's always there. The staple. Yeah, that's my staple. Yeah. It was gifted to me by a very dear friend of mine, who got me into watchmaking. Yep. So that one will always stay. Yeah. And I just love it. It's just an amazing watch. It's like my favorite watch. Yeah. And so I've had a 69 Speedmaster that I sold. That is an unbelievable thing. You know, hindsight, hey?
I sold that watch probably 11 years ago,
Wow. Okay.
I would say,
Yeah.
for 1,800 Australian dollars.
Holy hell. That's 1,800. Yeah.
That's what they were worth. A 1969 861 Speedmaster.
Yeah. That's the early 145.022 case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unbelievable, hey?
$800. Yeah.
Had an IWC Aqua Timer, which I actually really liked.
Modern or?
Yeah, modern one.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I had an IWC Aqua Timer. What else have I owned?
Well,
not too many to be honest, but yeah. Next purchase.
Yeah.
I'm really looking at a NOMOS. I've got to be honest. I know this always perplexes you when we talked about it before. Like, I don't have watches.
Yeah.
I see so many watches.
I know.
You know, like, I see so many things, and I'm so particular about what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I am so particular, and I have to kind of have a reason to want to watch. I don't just want to watch because I like it, if that makes sense. Again, I do like vintage, but there's only very, very specific watches I like. But the NOMOS Club, I cannot get it out of my head. I love it. I absolutely love it as a watch. You know, I don't like massive watches. You know,
so 36 to 38 millimeter.
Yeah, like my sub is the biggest watch I'd wear.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wear anything bigger than that. I just don't like them. You know. So the NOMOS Club, I've been thinking about it for such a long time.
I think it's a great choice, man.
I'm just not sure whether it's the Club Campus or
the classic.
Yeah, or the classic. I'm probably too old to own a Club Campus. That's the thing.
I was when he brought this up earlier to me, I was like, I love the Campus, but I just think maybe it's a little too young for us.
That's my, especially those new colored dials.
Yeah.
They're pretty out there.
I love them. They're so fun.
Oh, they're cool. Yeah. But they're just probably not for me. The one I do like though, just with the small orange center, the orange seconds hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have actually been thinking about a Club Campus. Because I have a parts account with NOMOS.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about changing the color of the hand.
Ooh.
Putting like.
So like doing like an Ashton.
Yeah, putting like a regular Campus hand on it.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that. So if anyone wants their NOMOS modded, I'm your guy.
Would they? Do you know if they would care?
No, they wouldn't care.
No, at all. Eh?
No.
Wow, well. There you go.
Yeah.
There's modding Seikos in the business. Right?
There's modding NOMOSes.
And now there's modding NOMOSes. Yeah.
Just a little bit about why I like NOMOS so much.
Sure.
If I may.
Of course.
Again, like I said, I have to have a reason to like a watch. The reason I like NOMOS so much is because they're so fair and balanced with what they do. You know, they will give watchmakers parts accounts. If you can say, yes, you're a watchmaker, and you give them, I just sent them like my business license or whatever, you're an actual watchmaker, yes, no problem, we'll set you up with a parts account. You know, that's so rare in this industry. That's so rare these days.
The Swiss, let's just say, the Swiss brands are
much harder. Like I have, you know, I can get Omega parts and things like that. I have an account with them. But they have requirements and things like that, and that's fine. I have no issues with requirements. Because I think that keeps, you know, the backyard guys, the riffraff guys out of the industry, which is good.
Course, yeah.
But NOMOS, you know, their parts are very reasonable. You know, it's relatively quick shipping. FedEx said it's here. You know, they're easy to deal with. So I really like them as a company.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear because, you know, I've been watching videos on, you know, NOMOS factory tours and things like that.
Teddy put one out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that video just to see, like, you know, how the watch is put together and the fact that there's, you know, the crazy sunburst thing that they do on the mainspring barrel. There's only two people in the factory that's allowed to do it. Things like that are just so interesting to see, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And how they manufacture each part. They would do batches, right? They will have two machines. They'll do batches of, like, you know, base plates, and then they'll do batches of screws. And
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, I really like them and respect them as a company.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool,
So,
cool. And you know, they're a fairly young company too, right?
relatively, yeah.
Started in the early 90s.
I believe it was the 90s, yeah. Yeah, so they've come a long way.
They have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're properly independent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, the other watch that I want is, what's the number? I think it's is it a 45 or a 44? It's the King Seiko chronometer.
44, I think.
The 44990.
Yeah.
The 44990. That is another watch I'd love to own. Yeah, that's my that would be my Grail
vintage.
My Grail Seiko.
Wow. How come how come that one?
So they were submitted for chronometer testing.
Yeah.
Those watches. They have chronometer certificates. Now the way they went about it is pretty incredible. And I just think they're such a classic looking watch. They're beautiful. I just love them.
Yeah.
So they actually watches that normally are chronometers will have well, a lot of the time they'll have like a Breguet overcoil balance spring as opposed to a flat balance spring.
Yep.
So the Seikos don't. They have a flat balance spring, but they actually have these tiny weights that are fitted onto the coils of the balance spring. I actually have a picture if you want to insert it. Taken under the microscope.
Yeah.
Into the balance spring to achieve the timekeeping. Wow. And they also have more jewels than any watch you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So the barrel itself, the barrel arbors are jeweled in the plates, but the barrel itself has jewels in it.
What?
As well, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful movement.
I don't think I've ever heard that. A barrel having jewels.
Yeah, it does happen, but it's very rare. Wow. Like no Rolexes of the day had it. No Rolexes now have jeweled barrel. Like it's a very, very cool watch.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So that is one.
Okay. So then if we're talking about so that's a movement that you love and respect.
Yeah,
right?
and the watch itself, I just find incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, the design of it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Super classic.
Oh, it's amazing, and it's big. It's bigger than I find than a lot of the Grand Seikos and King Seikos.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't have any in the shop right now, but I had 3 in the shop.
Yeah.
At one time, and I just fell in love with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you might have just sent me down a rabbit hole as well.
Oh, you love it. It's so cool.
Yeah. I've seen them around. You know, I have a lot of friends that have them, but...
Oh, yeah? You've seen a lot of them?
Yeah, I've seen a fair share.
Okay.
Yeah. They're great. I mean, I think they're...
Good condition, or...
I think good condition.
Yeah, okay. Nice.
Because they have silver dials. They have gray dials as well for those.
Okay. I haven't seen a gray. I've only kind of seen the silvery white kind of dial,
Okay. Well, maybe we're thinking about it.
No, they aren't all chronometers.
They are... Oh, they aren't?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. You may have seen them. They're not all chronometers.
Okay.
So the chronometer is the one that has the hacking seconds.
Yeah.
They don't all have it.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. They're not all. So I'm not sure if it's a reference thing. I don't know too much whether it's certain references. Yeah, but they are not all chronometers. They look the same.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same movement, but they aren't all chronometer rated. Yeah. So it's only the ones with the chronometer obviously on the dial.
On the dial.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll have to do some research into that.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, I think that's a decent enough chat for today.
For sure.
Ashton's a very busy man, so...
Gonna get those watches fixed.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me into your little world and
no problem. Thank you.
Glimpse, of what goes on to your day-to-day.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Cheers. I hope to have you on again soon.
Absolutely. Can we end it?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that was good.
Yeah, quick and easy.